officially fall now, and this can be a really depressing time for gardeners, including myself, because you start to notice all the signs of your plants slowing down their production and sometimes even dying off, and you realize that this glorious garden you created isn't going to last forever. But do not fret. I am here to tell you today that the fall not only can provide an abundance of cool weather crops, but it also gives you the opportunity to look around and see what's left in your garden and see how you can harvest it and then preserve it in whichever way in order to give you food to keep you going through the winter. And this is so exciting. It's like another level of gardening. I only got into this after about 5 or 6 years of gardening, but I started pickling things. I started making jams and other preserves. It's been a big learning curve for me, but it's been a fun one. This year, as I was looking around, I noticed, my giant basil plant that I grew with my Sprouts.io and have only harvested from maybe twice. What better to use that for than some delicious pesto? I haven't made pesto before, but I referred to a chef that I highly respect when it comes to Italian and California Italian types of menu items, and that's Ina Garten from the Barefoot Contessa and the Food Network. I'm gonna try this recipe. It's very simple. Basically, you just put everything that you have into either a food processor, or if you're like me and you can't find all the parts of your food processor, your Vitamix. 5 cups of packed basil. I'm gonna rip it apart in a second and see if that fits, but it seems like it should be pretty close, and I'll adjust the other ingredients accordingly. I then also have a 1.5 cups of good olive oil, a cup of freshly grated Parmesan, 1/4 cup each of walnuts and pine nuts, 3 tablespoons chopped garlic, which is about 8 cloves, and 1 teaspoon each of kosher salt and freshly grated black pepper. If you're harvesting your basil from outdoors, you want to wash it and dry it thoroughly before you add it to your recipe. The only reason I didn't do that is because I was growing this hydroponically indoors, so it really has no contaminants. The amount of basil that was on my plant almost exactly matched the amount called for in the recipe, 5 cups packed. So that was pretty cool. That might not always happen, so remember, if you don't have the exact amount, just adjust the other quantities. I'm gonna add all this together and get blending. Whenever I see pesto, I always see it a little bit chunkier than this, but it's my first try. Wow, that's really good. I'm just gonna pour it in. And then the final step is to pour that thin layer of oil on top. Do a very thin drizzle. You can't have any air touching it or it will turn. So very important, but it's not so hard to do. And I'm gonna store that in the fridge until I am ready to use it. Now, if you have a fresh pot of hot steaming pasta that you just took off the stove, you might not need to wait. You can just pour this right on and enjoy. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I enjoyed having you here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next week.
Say bye, Rue. Bye.